What's up, agency owners? Jason Swenk here with another episode of the Smart Agency Masterclass, a podcast for the digital agency owner that wants to grow and scale faster while not having to work all the time and work with those really pain in the ass clients. And on today's episode, I have an amazing agency owner who's in her second agency, and we're going to talk about how she's been growing and scaling her agency. So let's go ahead and jump into the show. Hey, Gina, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So tell us who you are and what do you do?
So I'm Gina Michnowicz. I'm the CEO and CCO of the Craftsman agency. We are an agency that really focuses on experiences and creating magical moments. And we work with clients like Disney and Cisco, and sometimes small brands as well. Just really people that want to do something innovative, really across the digital stack, and sometimes also tying it to experiential and in person.
And so how did you start an agency? Was it planned or were you accidental?
Actually, it was not planned. The irony is I kind of have come full circle in my career. So when I first got out of college, my dad set me up with two people to talk to. I ended up going to the HR route, and the ad agency didn't have any jobs. And so I ended up landing in a management consulting company, and was running and helping run part of the digital practice within the management consulting business. But it was always a little bit like one of these things is not like the other. So I went on leave. And when I came back, there were a few people that said, you really should, consider starting your own agency. And I went to a couple people and said, is this a crazy idea? And they both said, we'll be your first client. So the crazy part was my daughter was 8 months old at the time that I found my first agency.
Yeah, that's got to be challenging. That first couple of years or no sleep.
Yes. Well, I actually was super lucky. I had a baby that slept 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. starting month 4. So don't hate me, parents out there that are not sleeping.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, and tell us kind of, how did you start landing? Did you come out of the gate with the big clients or were some of these big clients the ones that you chatted about and said, I'll be your first client?
Yeah, so both clients actually kind of raced to the finish line to become first, and they both wanted to be first. So one actually got the first PO and one actually got the first check. So we kind of consider them both first. But we were lucky enough to start with Cisco and VMware. And that was kind of an insane roster to start. So I feel very lucky. I left a lot of I left a lot of the book though for the firm that I left, because I didn't want to, take them down. I just wanted to get a little start. And so I did leave, actually. I left Microsoft on the table. There's quite a few clients that I just kind of walked away from. So
that's crazy coming out of the gate with those big clients. Most people spend years and years trying to figure out, their way, up to the top of working with those big brands, which is sometimes a cursing and a blessing. You just never know which day it is.
I mean, we love, like, all of our clients, really. I mean, we do pick great people to work with. And so it's partly having just great humans. I mean, obviously there are clients sometimes that are a little bit harder to manage. But it definitely, the big guys are siloed. It's hard when you're doing something cross-functional, across department. It's like, I'm always wonder how P&G managed to get It's a Tide ad done, because that was about 7 brand managers and product lines that actually had to come in there and weigh and let Tide go first. So hats off to the agency and hats off to P&G for getting that feat. We are seeing after the pandemic that clients like Disney are, crossing over between sort of the theatrical to the home entertainment window. And you're seeing a lot more sort of integrated with publicity. And so I think a lot of good has come out of how we work with our clients across also the silos, but it is much more complex and it can be very political.
What, coming out of the gate with Cisco, Did you immediately start thinking about who do I need to hire, or did you try to do everything yourself? When did you get to the breaking point of saying some help?
I mean, honestly, the first quarter, it was pretty much the breaking point. And so I actually had a colleague that was like, look, I'm leaving this company because you're not here. So, I want to come with you. And she really um, was part of like a program came partly because she was also willing to come. And so she did come and say, look, I really want to be part of the team with you. And so that person was really multifaceted, which is when you're starting out is super helpful. So I'm very left brain, right brain. So I can kind of plug and play and I roll up my sleeves. And in the beginning, you really had to, but I'm glad that we are not working insane hours like that anymore.
What How do you find your talent? That's one of the biggest challenges, of people that, are in our mastermind. We're always talking about it's not about really kind of getting business. That's more of the easy part, but it's more about figuring out who do I bring in, where do I find them, where do I put them in, how do I know they're maxed out? Like, what started working for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things. So where I find talent, I still kind of do it the old school way. Sometimes I'm getting sort of 2 to 3 removed on LinkedIn. Like somebody will say, "Hey, I just got laid off," and I looking for an opportunity, and the person that I'm connected with will actually have responded and shared it, and so there are certain people I'm like, oh, well, if they're going to share it, then that's probably a good person. So, but that is obviously when you have like 10 recs, that doesn't really work. So it's a heavy lift to do that. But I do use LinkedIn a lot. I do tap my network, a fairly large network. And then sometimes we run an ad, but then you get so much from that. But right now, we're actually running a design intern program. We have 2 design interns coming out of Pratt, and then 2 interns coming out of LMU, the M School, and those are really great programs. And these kids are coming, to us with such great insight and perspective and thinking where I'm pretty sure I was not thinking like that at their age. And we're just finding that that is a really great place for us to build
Yeah,
too.
we started early on in the agency. We started getting to know the deans of the big schools that we wanted to recruit from, and we
Mhm.
would help them shape their curriculum in order for them to
Mhm.
send us their best students.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a totally different world. When I was in college, I was thinking about so not how to work, but the kids now coming out, they're so experienced and they've been doing
Yeah.
it since high school. I can't tell you how many times I have high school kids reaching out saying, "Hey, I'm about to start my agency." I'm like, "You're in high school. Like,
Yeah, it's
what are you
crazy.
doing? Go have fun and then figure it out after."
Yeah, we know like an agency owner. I mean, he is oh my gosh, he's like had his agency for like 4 years and he's like the age of a college student coming out, so it's crazy town. Um but because all these kids are so used to social and digital and half of them built websites to get into college, like there's all of these skills that kids have now. So yeah, it is. It's a different world for sure.
What works for you guys in making sure you guys have the right culture? I think you guys are all remote. So what's been working for you guys to keep everyone on the same page, to, allow them to make choices and decisions without you being the bottleneck?
Yeah, of course. Well, I personally, and hopefully nobody will get mad at me for saying this, but I honestly like want people to make their own decisions, and want the leadership team to feel empowerment and ownership to make those decisions too. And as an agency owner, it does you have to. It's hard to let go, and so sometimes I will catch myself and be like, "Nope, you need to step back. You have 2 people on leadership team. They're wildly talented. They're great, great with the team, just, kind of step back. And so I think that is really important. I think also making sure that the people at the leadership team level are very connected, because when you are disconnected at the top in any way, shape, or form, that does sort of feed. And honestly, if I had a pretty tough start to the year, in a lot of ways. And honestly, if I'm not showing up as my best self, it impacts and permeates throughout the whole organization. And that is one thing, as a leader, that you really do have to like keep yourself healthy, not be burnt out. There's all of these things because it really does impact the culture. But I think also relationships and making sure that you understand who that person is, like as a person, not the project coordinator aspect, but what are those things that person likes to do. I talk to people all the time about, what are their favorite restaurants? What are they doing? Where are they working out? Like all of the kinds of things that are inspiring them, because I think that connection point is really, really important. And also sort of that mentoring aspect as well. From a cultural standpoint, we do daily stand-ups, and we have also Asana, which all of those tools, and Slack, and all of those things make a big difference in terms of being connected. And stand-up, you are on video because that is it's a good way for us to connect. But then throughout the day, you might hop on a huddle on Slack, and you might not be on video because we all got kind of fatigued over the pandemic. So
what do you do to not really kind of hit the burnout button and or the eject button on the agency? There's a lot on our shoulders as agency owners, and it's really easy to kind of just go, man, eject, I'm out, right? Like, what works for you to not hit that burnout, or what's got you over the burnout point?
Yeah, because I will honestly say, so I had a key person leave. I kind of have a right hand and left hand person. I'm really lucky for that. And I had one person go on medical leave, or not medical leave, but family medical leave back to take care of their child, because the pandemic was really horrible for families and mothers. And so I really wanted to make sure that she came back and that we had room for her to come back. So I didn't want to hire any kind of replacement because I wanted to make sure that we were profitable. And so what that meant is that my left-hand person and I took on a lot. And I'd say we both did burnout. Like ultimately, because we had a phenomenal year last year, which is great. I'm so thankful, but it was nonstop. And so I would say that what I have learned and how I got myself back on track, and what I think I have to continue to do, is I walk Monday through Friday every morning before the sunrise. And that is important. I meditate Monday through Friday, and do like sit down and have my quiet time and goals and that kind of reflection time every morning. That really does establish, sort of just grounds me, gets me into a different place. And then I work out through the day. So if I sit all day and I don't actually take steps, but I have I call it my prison workout. And so I do like weights and things. So I take breaks. And another thing that I have done, lots of things to avoid this burnout, I guess. Another thing that I've done is block time so that I have working time. So not allowing myself to be completely booked. Unlike today is like almost back to back solid. And I think taking vacations, taking time with friends, taking time with family, those are all of the things. We have unlimited PTO, and we really do those are all the things that I'm doing and trying to also encourage. If I see someone working too much, we'll say, when are you taking vacation? So.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is you got to focus on yourself first, and you got to create rules and understand why did you create those rules, whether it be blocking time or certain days. Like I always tell everybody, my rules is I never have any meetings outside of Tuesdays through Thursdays, and it's 9 to 1. That's it.
That's great.
Right. And so you create these rules, and then it allows you to really kind of focus on yourself. The other thing that I'm always telling the mastermind members is there's kind of three areas in any business, and especially the agency business, is like, have you replaced yourself in sales? Have you replaced yourself in marketing? Have you replaced yourself in delivery? And most the chances are is people have not replaced themselves in multiple areas that I just mentioned, which then they get to a point where they're like, I don't want to grow anymore. I just want to like
Mhm.
go back the way it was because it was easier. But if they realized if they brought those people in, then life gets way easier.
Yes. Yes. I think you make a really great point. So I'd say that I have replaced myself in most of those areas, which leaves me leaves me the opportunity on the business development standpoint to try to go open up new segments for us, and or new accounts, because the team is taking great care of the current accounts, and the directors are managing those books of business, and then that gives me really room to go, kind of do business development, because I mean, I love that, but I also think it's hard to do all those things like you were talking about, and the directors are doing all of those things as well. Um, but I also think that, we're trying to get me to do more thought leadership, which kind of goes in the marketing realm, but we actually have teams of people doing cross-functional teams for most of these things as well.
Well, yeah,
So,
I just look at it as what are the things only I can do, right?
yeah.
Like what do I produce? Can someone
Yeah.
else do the podcast? Sure, they could, but would they have the stories or that kind of stuff, right? Like, so I should be doing that. But should I be doing sales
Sure.
calls? Hell no. Should I be delivering? No way. Like the attention to detail would not be there. Like that's how, when we started getting successful as an agency, that's how I started going, oh my gosh. But then I
Yes.
realized I would go to these other meetings and going, oh man, the people don't need me anymore. But then I had to
Yes.
realize it's a new role, um,
Mhm.
in a lot more fun role.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely more fun because you're also thinking about the strategy of the company. And let's be real, I mean, we're in an industry that is moving nonstop. And so that is, staying ahead of that is really, really important.
Yeah.
Um, but but yes, I mean, as you're talking, it's well, we always go into sales calls, and I'm always like, so who wants to present? Because I was like, guys, I don't have to present. Somebody else can present. And I don't get takers for the most part. So I think the only way that I get a taker is if I'm not on the call. So
No, you should stop showing up.
yeah.
They're probably, if I had to guess, if I chatted with your sales team, I bet they'd be like, she makes me nervous.
Maybe I did have someone, because there was my internet was going in and out, and I couldn't present. I did have someone present while I was on, but yes, I'm 100% sure that that is part of it. So
Awesome. Well, this has been amazing, Gina. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
I think the one thing, like if you're working in a remote model, is, and we touched a little bit on culture, but really trying to make sure as a leader that you're engaged and that the employees are engaged. I'd say that engagement is the biggest factor of really seeing if somebody is really passionate and happy in their current role. When you see lack of engagement, you can still see it remotely over the video. It's important to really kind of like pull that person closer and really try to understand what needs to be done to make that role a good fit for them and make them happy.
Awesome. Great advice. What's the agency website people go and check you guys out?
The craftsmanagency.com, and it's man.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, Gina. Lots of great knowledge bombs. And if you guys enjoyed this episode and you want to be around amazing agency owners where you can really grow a lot faster for being around the most successful agency owners, and they might be able to see the things you might not be able to see and be able to empathize with where you're at. Because there's a lot of times we go through times where we're like, eject. And some of the other agency owners be like, look, I've been through it. This is what worked for me. Use that as a framework. If that is of interest to you, I'd like all of you to go to digitalagencyelite.com. Go check that out. And until next time, have a swank day.